high honor, and a most unexpected one. But it's a high honor because the admiration that I have and my group has for Tom Glessner and the rest of NIFLA is out of the stratosphere. It is. And, you know, I don't want to ever, I've been in this movement 19 years on staff. I was a volunteer 5 years prior to that. And I can tell you this, I never want to be in this movement without NIFLA. Ever. Agreed? Yeah. I had a little sister growing up. I still have a little sister. And we would fight often because that's what siblings do. And one of the ways my sister would get me often is she would, when I was giving her a hard time, she would say, "I'm going to tell Mom on you." And for some reason, it struck great fear in my heart. It was a wonderful tactic to use against me. And I have to tell you, though, it gave her great comfort to be able to go to Mom. And when things like what happened on Friday, when Google, and you knew it, all their eggs are in that basket. I mean, the first place they go is the almighty Google when they have a question. We all do. I mean, we don't even go to our pastors now. We go there first. We ask Almighty Google, and that's what our patient does. She goes there first. And so we knew. We had so much dependence on them, and we knew it. If they turned on us, and they would at some point, I didn't think it would be last Friday, but at some point they would. But I was in Outer Banks on vacation. The first thought I had when I got the email from Christine was, I'm going to tell Tom on them. Have you called Ann yet? That's the first place we go. And brother, I'm very grateful. So it's a high honor because we love you dearly. We thank you for all the work that you do. We're grateful that we can call Tom and Ann and NIFLA. Thank you.
How many, like me, were riveted at Denise's workshop on the ERA? Yeah. Well, I kind of knew all that, but I guess I have more of a sense of urgency now after hearing Denise and knowing what could possibly happen in the future. But we're one state away from 38 states, right, Denise? Maybe, unless the 5 get rescinded and all that stuff. Well, guess what? We almost got 38. State of Virginia is ready to go, except for one man. Where's that word? Except for one man who stood firm, Delegate Mark Cole from Spotsylvania County. He held firm. Mark has been a friend for a long, long time. His bios and the materials pretty impressive. It's funny, Mark, I always run into Mark at the mall, and it's usually after hours and I'm checking the post office box and there he's checking something. Hey, Mark, and we start talking politics and all. But Mark Cole stood firm, and he's the reason the ERA did not pass in Virginia, and all this mess that Denise told you would happen has been at least deferred for now. So we are very honored today. Come on, Mark. This is NIFLA's award for Life Champion Legislator Mark Cole from the state of Virginia. We're going to award this to you, and I'm going to turn the mic over to you, but thank you so much for being here and honoring us, and thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you very much. It's an honor to be here with you all, and I was really kind of surprised when I got the call a few weeks ago saying, hey, can you come down to Virginia Beach, and I was like, I don't know, maybe I gotta work and all this. And they said, well, they want to give you an award. And I thought, well, why on earth would somebody want to give me an award? But anyways, I really do appreciate it. I've known Tom for probably 20 years. I first ran across him when he was out raising money to try to buy ultrasound machines for the pro-life clinics. Appreciate everything Tom does and his stand and what NIFLA does. It's really critical. Anymore, you can't do anything without a lawyer. And it's good to have somebody like NIFLA, an organization like NIFLA on your side. Also, appreciate the good food here today and the good fellowship. Why politicians are like stray dogs. As long as you keep feeding them, they'll keep coming back. And this is really an honor. It was a tough fight, trying to hold everybody together. I've been chairman of the Privileges and Elections Committee in the House of Delegates here for, I think, almost 13 years now. And every year they push and push the ERA. And I try to do it, being an old guy, I try to do some historical education on it. Anybody, my age or older knows that the NIFLA or the ERA expired in 1982. And that was even acknowledged by the Supreme Court. But anymore, that doesn't matter. People tend to want to ignore facts that they don't like and just pretend that it never happened and push forward. And with the way our federal courts are, you never know, it'd probably be easy to find a federal judge that will go along with them and agree with them. And, many years ago, I took an oath to support and defend the Constitution. And I consider that oath is still valid. And part of that is to prevent, defend the Constitution from illegitimate ways of trying to amend it. There's a proper and appropriate way to amend it, and that's how they need to go. And so, I tell you, it seems like the other side gets louder and more, angrier every year. But that just shows how effective we have been. I think really on the life issue, we have good cause to be optimistic. Because not through the politicians, regardless of what the politicians do, you all keep working, doing the good work in the field, in the grassroots, because the trends are in our favor on the life issue. Poll after poll shows that the vast majority of Americans do not support abortion on demand and do not support unfettered abortion. And so, and that's not because of any politician, I guarantee you. It's because of good folks like you and good churches, good pastors out preaching the word and doing the good work at the grassroots level. And so regardless of how things go politically, you all keep doing what you're doing, keep standing for what's right, and you will be rewarded in the end. So thank you very much.
Ann's going to introduce our keynote speaker, but before we do, I just want to, the lawyers are going to appreciate this. Okay. So, Virginia is so critical this year, our elections. The balance of the legislature, both Senate and House, are hanging by one vote. Mark's a vote they're going after like crazy. Now, I know, because of the so-called Johnson Amendment, Herb, I can't get up here and say NIFLA endorses any particular candidate. So we can't. But I am going to endorse Mark Cole because I have a First Amendment right. And those of you in Virginia, get the word out. Get the word out. This is the most crucial election in our lifetime this year for the state. The balance is held by 1 or 2 votes. Mark hadn't been there, ERA would have passed. So thank you again, Mark.
Amen. Well, our next speaker, I'm so happy to introduce. I first heard her at the March for Life this past January. And I was just shocked how she ignited the crowds. We had tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people on the wall, and she just ignited them. It was so exciting. She is an attorney, and she's also a state legislator from the state of Louisiana. And in that position, she advocates passionately for humanity, and she likes to say, from the womb to the tomb. She's authored many pro-life bills, including the one that requires abortionists to have admitting privileges at the local hospital. If they're going to do surgeries at their abortion clinic, they should have admitting privileges in case something goes wrong. It seems to make sense. Well, of course, it was challenged. It kind of made its way up to the Supreme Court, got bounced down, and it's making its way back up. And we hope she gets a chance to argue that even in the Supreme Court. She's also authored a bill that just got news this week that would require the vote to go out to the whole state on whether to make abortion unconstitutional. So she just advocates for the unborn just tremendously in her state. She's rated 100% by the Louisiana Right to Life, and she's honored for her courage and leadership by many diverse organizations. She asked me before she comes up if you could do a little calculation in your mind. Think about your birthday and then subtract 6 months and hold on to that date. But I think the testimony that she's honored by many diverse organizations is because she breaks stereotypes. She's a woman, a powerful but loving woman. She is a Democrat. She's African American. She's brave. And she breaks those stereotypes and is one of the most powerful and most fearless voices for the rights of the unborn. And this is why NIFLA is pleased to award her the 2019 Life Legislator Award. If you could come up, Katrina.
Thank you for having me. And I want you to hold on to that date. But in January 22nd, 1973, it's the day that Roe versus Wade was rendered. For many attorneys who, let me speak up. Thank you. I'm a little bit taller than the average woman. And then I was 40 years everywhere. So, on January 22nd, 1973, the day that Roe versus Wade ruling came down. For many attorneys who practice in this area, we know that day, and it's ingrained in our hearts. I tell many people it was the day that the United States sanctioned murder. No other way to look at it. It's the first time our United States Supreme Court said that you could murder and you would be punished for it. It was also the day that the United States Supreme Court turned its back on God and sanctioned the shedding of innocent blood. And since that day, many who were born began to fight against it and began to instill the values in us who came after that day to fight against it. So I told you to write down your date and your birthday, because this is a story that's true. So imagine this. Take the date you have right now. 6 months pre-birth. 6 months pre-birth, I had a friend's mother to walk in an abortion clinic. She was 3 months pregnant. She figured she could not afford to have a child. She was unwed. It was unpopular in her community. And she did not want to embarrass her family. So she walks in, she sees the doctor, they confirm the pregnancy, and instead of counseling her, because the counseling laws were not in place then, she goes to the back, strips from the waist down, positions herself in the stirrups, with no counseling but the Holy Spirit, she gets off the table. Now, I told you to hold that date because 6 months before your birth, your mother had a choice. And I was asked the other day, why do I fight as a Black female Democrat for life? I said, well, somebody fought for you because your mother had a choice. So the date you hold in your hand is the date that my friend's life was decided from her date of birth. And because we had sanctioned the shedding of innocent blood in the United States, her mother could have murdered her. So I told the reporter, and it was an impromptu press conference because we were fighting a battle where we're having so many demonstrations at the Capitol against life. I said, so when you ask me why I fight for life, you're asking me why someone fought for you. Because your mother had a choice. I said, you see how rhetorical that question is? Because if your mother was one in the abortion center 6 months before your birth, you would have wanted me to fight for you. So I fight for life because someone fought for me. And it didn't matter my skin color, it didn't matter my race, it didn't matter my political affiliation. It just mattered that I would have wanted a chance to experience this life. And we all got that. And so when you fight for life, I tell people, you're fighting for them. You're fighting because someone fought for you, because abortion has been legal in the United States since 1973. And for many of us born after that date, 3 months before our birth, our mothers could have put their legs in a stirrup. And I know that sounds a little graphic, but it's true. And they could have ended every opportunity we would have had at ever experiencing a breath on God's green earth. And so I don't see this as a party issue. I don't see it as a community issue. I see it as just the right thing to do. And so the reporter didn't ask any more questions, right? You know what I mean? Because it took off our feet. But sometimes in this fight where we're being criticized for doing what's right, we have to take people off of their feet. And I said, how is it a woman's right to an abortion when it's your right to live? I said, and we must remember that we're all fetuses at some point. And we're living now. We were living then. I said to them, now, in the state of Louisiana, if I killed a woman who was pregnant, I get charged with murder and fetal homicide. I say, so how do we consider it a life in one statute and in another we don't? What's the compelling argument at that point that Louisiana law considers a fetus a life, but then the Supreme Court tells us we can't consider it a life when it comes to abortion? If you look at a lot of your state statutes right now, right, you have fetal homicide. And for that purpose, a fetus is a life. But then because the federal government told us that we could not consider a fetus a life when it came to an abortion, our state statutes are null and void on the issue. We have a statute that says the day that Roe versus Wade is overturned in the state of Louisiana, the United States Supreme Court, it will be overturned in Louisiana. Our legislature doesn't have to come in and act at any point. They did that before I came. So the day the Supreme, and this is something to take back to your state, the day the Supreme Court, because I speak in the affirmative on it, renders a decision in the state of Louisiana, we don't have to call an emergency session. We don't have to do anything. Our law says the day the Supreme Court corrects this wrong, we're already there. And so that's where we are right now. And I wanted to say that to you because I wanted to drive home to you in your advocacy. When someone challenges you, it's as easy as that. Why are you fighting for life? Because someone chose you. And you should have saw the reporter's face. She's like, what do you mean? I was like, well, your mother could have an abortion. You look like you're my age, right? Abortion was legal when you came along. So your mother chose you. Someone fought for you. Someone was outside an abortion clinic as my friend's mother was entering. That might have been the change because no one in the abortion clinic gave her any counseling. And so that's why we fight for life. It's as simple as giving the fetus the same opportunity for life that someone gave us. So with that being said, my friend is a pastor and an attorney, and she travels the world preaching and speaking the gospel and fighting for life and fighting for issues important to God. And she sent me this, and I wanted to share it with you because it became the topic of my speech for today. I was on the plane and she sent me this, and it changed years for me. And she calls this poem In a Mother's Womb. Her name is Pastor Prophetess Janet Floyd. And she says, death and mayhem fill our streets. Senseless bloodshed even in our schools. Greed and corruption is everywhere. Who cares about the golden rule? Where are the answers? We all cry. Who has the remedies to rid our world of war, hatred, cruelty, and disease? One cried signs holds the answer. Another, what can't money buy? All had an opinion, but none knew where the answer lies. An old woman whispered, if you desire to save our world from doom, perhaps the answer lies within a woman's womb. Perhaps the answer we seek for our troubled earth has not been born yet. Perhaps we wait our answer's birth. Perhaps just like Jesus who destroyed death and gloom, perhaps our Father's answer is still in some woman's womb. Wow. It was so powerful, and I was on a plane and she sent it, and it just changed where I was. I said, in a woman's womb. And I want to say this to you because it's so important in advocacy that we know what direction we're going. There's someone suffering from cancer today, and she or he may be pro-choice. But guess what? There's been no cure for cancer. And that cure may be in the womb of a mother who's debating on whether or not to have an abortion. So I tell people, I said, God does magnificent work on this earth, but he does it through us. And there's no way to get here besides through a woman's womb. So every answer, every cure for cancer, every cure for HIV, every cure for multiple sclerosis, every cure for any disease that plagues any of us or our families is sitting somewhere in a woman's womb. And it has to come through a woman's womb to get to us. So when I'm advocating now, this is a new stance I'm taking, that the cure to what you seek is in a woman's womb. And you never know what you're aborting when you legalize abortion. I told someone, wouldn't it be sad if God had already planned to eradicate cancer all over the world, but some woman laid on the table and aborted that cure by aborting the answer that lied within that fetus's mind and heart. And someone said to me, I was talking to them last night, they said, well, what about natural remedies? And there's a lot of things grown that are natural, that cure. And I said, well, until someone picks it up and tries it, it doesn't become a cure. I said, so every cure for any disease that plagues this nation and this world is going to come through a woman's womb. And that's why her poem was so significant, because I said, you know what? We all come that way. Every great thing that we've done comes from a woman's womb. And so we never know what we're aborting today. As Roe versus Wade sweeps the nation, as people begin to advocate for it, and we stand holistically against it. I tell them I not only stand for my life and the life of that fetus, but I stand for the life of the fetus who's going to come out and fight for the life of others. Who's going to offer solutions to problems that you and I can only dream of, that we pray about, that we ask God for an answer to, but it hadn't come through us. That doesn't make us wrong. It just means that that's not our gift. I tell people all the time, Oprah Winfrey was born to an unwed mother, was abused, and became the biggest philanthropist that this world has ever seen. She's built schools in foreign lands. She's given away vehicles and cars. I may not agree with everything she does, but she didn't come from a perfect situation. But thank God her mother chose to birth her, right? Bill Gates, adopted, at some point homeless, but became one of the most impressionable people in technology this world has ever seen. Didn't come from a perfect situation, but came through a woman's womb who had a choice and chose to birth him. It's not going to ever be a perfect situation. Not all heroes come from a white picket fence, 2 parents, and a dog with money in the bank for education. And so when they tell me they're fighting for women's rights, I say, what about the right of that fetus? Because you once were one. Who fought for you? Who chose you? What if your mother would have exercised an option not to have you? I said, so when I stand up here today and fight for me and fight for life, I'm fighting for you. I'm continuing the legacy that let you live. Shuts a lot of mouths up. I think people forget, right? I'm serious. I think people forget that they're a fetus, that at some point they came through the womb, they were a fetus, and their mother could have aborted them. And so when I look at where we are right now, a lot of people are like, oh, there's pressure on every hand, and trust me. As I walked to my car after the press conference yesterday, and I'm looking like, who is this man walking behind me? Why is he 10 feet away from me? I just want to get to my car and leave the Capitol. I have a flight to catch to Virginia. And one of the sergeant-at-arms who I was familiar with walked up to me and said, who's this guy following me? It's like, I've been like on the other side of the Capitol to this side of the Capitol. Now I'm turning to go to my car in the back parking lot, and this plainclothes guy. She said, oh, that's a state policeman. We fear that you may be attacked leaving from the press conference. And you know, that's a sobering thought. You're doing the work of the Lord, you feel, right? You know it. And I got a little discouraged until she sent me this poem. Because every answer that we're looking for is going to come through a woman's womb. Because we all do. Every advocate, every person that's going to cure a disease, every person that's going to solve one of the most puzzling questions in your mind is going to come through a woman's womb. But unfortunately in America for us, they have a choice whether to be birthed or not. Not all of us come from a perfect situation. But if you give us a chance, if you choose life, many of us are going to make great strides and make a difference. We may not make a world impactful difference, but we're going to touch someone, somewhere, and we're going to make a difference in their lives. So in my advocacy now, I'm more bold than ever before. I'm just being honest. I spoke at the Right to Life, and they said, you're not going to go do this, right? You're not, as a pro-life Democrat, just going to fly out to Washington and tell them that Louisiana. I say yes. Because I enjoy a state where most of the Democrats in the House and the Senate are pro-life. I was on the phone before I came down with the First Lady of my state. Her husband is a Democrat. He's a Democrat for life. She's a Democrat for life. They have an awesome story. And she was told to abort her firstborn because the child would be born with serious disabilities. And they were lifers. And she said, I cannot do it. Her child is now married, no disabilities, never had one. I just believe when you choose life, you increase your own life. I was looking on Facebook yesterday, and there's this female in Louisiana that just graduated high school. She got over $1.5 million in scholarship offers. But you know what's impressive about that 17-year-old? She got pregnant at 16 and had her baby. So the headlines read, Teen Mom Succeeds. And I was like, you know what, God? You increased her life because she chose life. And so now I'm on a new advocacy as of last night when I was in choir. To let everyone know that every answer you seek is in the womb, will come through the womb of a woman. And that you're not choosing to abort a fetus or whatever you classify it as. You're choosing to abort an answer. Someone who's going to cure something that you've been on your knees praying for a friend or a family member all night for. Someone who's going to answer questions that plague this world that we live in, because we all have issues. We have to advocate now like our lives depend on it, because they do. We're born. But what comes next for us, what happens, what we live, the quality of life depends on that fetus in that woman's womb. Because we have too many unanswered questions, too many unsolved mysteries, too many diseases that plague even those who live for God all of their lives. And I want to see those answered. God says that I come to bring you life, and so that you may have it more abundantly. I want to see our people live an abundant life. And the only way that's going to continue is that we stop the shedding of innocent blood. That America rights this wrong that was done in 1973 by the United States Supreme Court. You know, I didn't agree with all of Trump's appointments to the Supreme Court or federal judgeships, but the last question I asked in my disagreement was, is he or she going to vote life? I said, because if they are, then God's going to use them to overturn the most egregious decision that the United States Supreme Court has ever made. Bottom line. I'm a woman, I watched the hearings until I couldn't watch them anymore. I was wondering, is he a rapist? Is he going to uphold women? And I'm just being honest. Because my thought pattern, I'm an attorney, I was flying all over the place. But at the end of the day, it came back to this one central question for me. Is he going to advocate and support life in his opinions? Because at some point right now, it's what matters. And for me, an African American woman that represents an African American district, who reads the statistics on abortions in my state, we represent 30-some% of the population in Louisiana. We make up 60-some% of the abortions. And so when my community say, why is this important to you? Why do you fight this issue? I say, because it's modern day genocide for my community. I said, that's why. Because more of African Americans' babies today die in the womb from abortion than any other disease, illness, sickness, or violence combined together. We said it to you all the time. More of my community babies each year die in the womb from abortion than anything else combined. I said, I wouldn't do my community any justice coming to the Capitol and voting Democratic on the issue of abortion. I'm sanctioning modern day genocide if I don't stand up for it in my own community. And more importantly, I'm going against God if I don't stand against abortion. There's an answer for us in advocacy, and I appreciate what you do, but every day as I walk this walk, I'm realizing that the advocacy against abortion is ever evolving. And it's growing. And there's many attacks, but there's an answer to every attack. Look, I'm constantly researching, I'm constantly talking to friends, I'm constantly receiving things like this poem that changes the trajectory of my speech. Because I'm realizing now more than ever before that what we're fighting is not for just the life in the womb. When you fight for life, you're fighting for your own life. You're fighting for your children's life, your neighbor's life, because that womb holds so many answers to things that plague us. But when you talk to these pro-choice advocates and you say, well, I'm fighting for you, because your mother had a choice. And you enjoy the freedom of speaking out now on any issue. But most importantly, you enjoy the issue, the freedom of just being born into this world. Don't you deserve the next person? Don't you think the next person deserves that same freedom? And so I know my debate and my speeches in Washington are more spirited, but this is more of a serious, closed-door nature. Where at this point, we have to go deep into our hearts and minds and begin to advocate in a way that they don't expect us. This is what I told Senator Regina Barrow, who's a female Democrat in the Senate, and Senator Beth Mazzeo, who's a Republican senator in our Senate, right? And we were all talking, we were like, how do we make them understand that fighting for life is fighting for women's rights? How do we make them understand that when we fight for life, we fight for the woman? I said, just tell the truth. I said, I don't want another scripted note sent to me on a bill for life. I'll take it, I'll read it. But when I get up there, I want to go off script. I want to be prepared for whatever question they have. And I want to show them the true nature of what life means. We're talking about it. And we're bipartisan women. And we were really seriously talking about this issue. Talking to the governor's wife today, I said, you know, I'll be at the governor's mansion tomorrow. She said, yeah, can you? I said, yeah, I'm flying back in tonight. I said, because we've had so many protests at the Capitol of pro-choicers, choice people. I said, we need to control this narrative. And we can't control it with rhetoric. We have to control it with our God-given right to speak up for who we are, who He is, and whose we are in Him. That's the important thing. Because if we can't speak up based on who we are in Him and whose we are, then we're going to fail in this narrative. And you know, someone said, they said, well, you know you're running for Senate. And you know, I've been very comfortable in my House seat. I enjoy the second term with no opposition. You always feel good, right? Nobody opposes you, go right back in, and you're happy, and you're like, huh. And I can go a third term with no opposition. I think the district has been very kind to me. But I stepped up to run for Senate, and I thought about it, and somebody said, you know, you have a Democratic district, and they're going to put a lot of money into your race. I said, yeah. And I got a little down, and then this is my answer. I said, well, you know, when I first ran for office, and someone told me to stop speaking for Jesus and stop speaking for life in my first run, I said, you remember what I told them? She said, no. I said, you said a lot of stuff. You talk a lot. I said, I'd rather lose with Jesus than win without Him. And honestly, in this fight for life, I told them, I said, I don't have to be an elected official. This is just what God chose me. This is the position He put me in to advocate. But if you think I'd stop advocating for life because they took me out the legislature, they'd give me a whole lot more time to travel. They'd give me a whole lot more time to be in their faces because I don't make my living in the legislature. That's the beauty of Louisiana. We get paid $17,000 a year to be legislators. I told them I'm not going to lose a home, a car, an article of clothing. And I'm sure not going to lose God in it. Because if God selects not to send me back, because I advocated for Him, He has something much greater. That's another thing about advocacy, especially when you advocate for life. You have to get to the point where you'll lose it all to serve Him. Because you really gain it all. I never wanted anything in my life that God did not give to me. I learned that early. That you never want anything in your life that God didn't give to you, because ill gain will be ill loss, and you'll suffer more loss than what you've ever gained. That's how I look at this advocacy for life. I never want to stop advocating, and I never want to disappoint God, but I never want to give the enemy victory. I don't look at the people as enemies. I look at them as misguided, and I look at us as voices that God uses to guide them in the right direction. And so when I was in Washington, I talked about fighting for life, and some of you heard it, and they said, why do you fight? I said, I don't care if I'm Democrat, I don't care if I'm black, white, Republican, short or tall, I'm going to advocate for life. Because before I am anything else, and this is our stance, I'm a Christian. And Proverbs says that God hates the shedding of innocent blood. What blood can be more innocent than that of a child in the womb that has not been born into this world of sin, and who's known no sin not one day of his life? What more innocent can you get than that? And so I look forward and I stand with you on the day that America turns around this decision. I truly believe some of the things that we're seeing in our world right now is because America sanctioned the shedding of innocent blood. And there's a price to pay for that. For every baby that's killed in the womb, for every baby that shed of innocent blood comes from, there's a price that America has paid for that. And so I do say, God bless America. But now I say, but America needs to bless God. And in the area of abortion, America needs to right its wrong and stand with the Holy Spirit, with God, with our Trinity, and come back to what it means to bless God. I told people in my closing that America wants God to bless it. We pray in my state before every session. We pray every day before we take the floor. We pledge allegiance to a flag with a pledge that says one nation under God. But we still have people that believe that we can usurp God's will and God's plan, because we still have people advocating for Roe versus Wade. And so now every time I say God bless America, I end it with, in America, bless God. You're on the right side of this issue. We are on the right side of this. Look, I know you get tired. Sometimes I go home and I say my life would be much easier if I didn't opt for the abortion bills. That is the one bill that I receive numerous emails about opposed to me. I've been receiving them weekly. They say, I'm not in your district, but I'm going to oppose, I'm going to support anyone that runs against you. Then I get home and I toss and turn over. You know, we're human, we have flesh. And then I say, you know what, God? But you're going to advocate for me because I advocate for you. So in asking God to bless America, we need to add to that prayer that America overturns Roe versus Wade and blesses God. And that we remember that every answer to anything that plagues us is going to come through the woman's womb. And when we sanction abortion, we may be canceling out gifts and callings and answers and beautiful things that are yet to be birthed into this world. And more importantly, it's going to hit home, because we're going to cancel out answers that our children need. We're going to cancel out answers that our parents need. I pray every night for God to overturn Roe versus Wade. Because when a nation has been so entrenched for so many years with doing something that they believe was right, see, I don't understand how an overwhelming majority of us are pro-life in the United States and Roe versus Wade hasn't been overturned. I don't understand how a majority of a nation cries out against something and our elected officials ignore it. I truly don't. But I see a shift and a wind blowing in the Supreme Court like never before. It's a wind of righteousness. It's a wind that says that life is more important than we've ever seen it before. I'm ever hopeful, ever mindful, but I don't put my hope in people. I don't even put my hope in myself. I ask God to blow in a wind in the Supreme Court that will change the face of it. Because that's what we need. Because we live in a system that says the Supreme Court has the last say in our society on any issue. And so we put our trust in people that are appointed for lifetime appointments, never having to be answerable to the people, never having to be elected. So the God that I serve and you serve is the only person at this point, the only being, the only thing that can change the minds of those who we've set up a system that they can't and will not be answerable to us. I stand with the majority of Americans. Because every poll I show says majority of Americans are pro-life. But I stand with God in knowing that He's not going to allow this much longer in the United States. We have been blessed tremendously. Sometimes I think about God favored each of us just by allowing us to be born here. We're not born in a third world country where we're not able to make a living, where we're not able to praise Him. We've been blessed enough. And if God can bless us, then He can definitely bless the minds of those who serve in the Supreme Court to overturn this decision. I am now authoring a bill that just passed the Senate in Louisiana that says that you do not have a right to abortion under the Louisiana Constitution. And people say that's kind of redundant. It's not. Because in 2 or 3 states, their Supreme Courts have looked at their Constitution and found a right to abortion. You know what that means? If Roe versus Wade is overturned in those states, because their Supreme Courts have ruled that their Constitution has a right to abortion, abortion will still be protected in their state. So I started this out by saying we had a state statute that said that when Roe versus Wade was overturned, no more right to abortion in Louisiana. But we realized that at any point our Supreme Court could recognize a right to abortion. After this constitutional amendment passes, always notice I speak in the positive about things that are yet to come for us. The Supreme Court will never be able to find a right to abortion in the state of Louisiana. You need to take that back to your state. Because now that they feel like the Supreme Court is going to someday overrule Roe versus Wade, they are now attacking your state constitutions. And every legislature that is pro-life should be working on a constitutional amendment to bring to the vote of the people so that no court can ever find a right to abortion in your state. So I'll close with what I started with in my speech, because these words resonated so heavy with me by Pastor Janet Floyd. And now that you know what she meant, she says, death and mayhem fill our streets, senseless bloodshed even in our schools. Greed and corruption is everywhere. Who cares about the golden rule? We are the answers. Where are the answers? We all cry. Who has the remedies to rid our world of war, hatred, cruelty, and disease? One cry, silence holds the answer. Another, what can't money buy? All had an opinion, but none knew where the answer lies. An old woman whispered, if you desire to save our world from doom, perhaps the answer lies within a woman's womb. Perhaps the answer we seek for our troubled earth has not been born yet. Perhaps we await our answer's birth. Perhaps just like Jesus, who destroyed death and gloom, perhaps our Father's answer is still in some woman's womb. Thank you.
Wow. So let's stay standing. We're going to do something. We're going to pose it real quick. We're going to join hands. And we're going to sing God Bless America. And when we're done, just shout out, and America bless God. Amen. So let's sing it together. God bless America. Land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the valleys to the oceans wide with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. Let's say it together. And may